Hi, thank you so much for coming in. During this mock interview, we will focus on instructional practices, classroom management, and professional development learned in educational psychology. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So I have been working in classrooms for pretty much my entire life. I am currently a student at Utah Valley University and I'm studying elementary education. I grew up with parents and grandparents who worked in the classroom in elementary classrooms and who taught for a long time. And I was often in and out of elementary classrooms helping and um, learning more from their teaching strategies. And after serving a mission, I worked more in a classroom. I worked as a teacher in a special education classroom, and I helped a few of the deaf kids in their class. And um, I've worked really closely as well with first and third grade teachers. Um, and I love teaching. I love being around kids. I currently work at a daycare and have always really enjoyed learning, and I want to be able to apply that into my job. It's something that's been a big part of my life, so I want to be able to continue that.
Thank you. That sounds great.
Okay, so the next question I have is how do you differentiate instruction to meet the diverse needs of your students?
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of ways that you can differentiate instruction. Kids learn in many different aspects and many different ways, and they have an easier time with some content than other content. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. I think there's a variety of strategies that can be used to do this. There is modifying content, there is a different process that you can use, different products based on students' readiness levels, things like that. There was a teacher that I worked very close with in a first grade classroom who did things like just right reading levels, where she had a book that was the same content and the same information for each student, but it was at the reading level that they each read at so that they could understand what they were reading and process the information and learn along with the rest of the class, but didn't have to be confused with bigger vocabulary words. Whereas students who were further in their understanding and reading levels, they were able to be challenged by those larger vocabulary words and more just gaining a deeper understanding of the content. I think that also it's important to constantly be checking where our students are at and try to understand how we can help them progress, and continue to. I mean, students will progress throughout the year, and so I think it's important that we don't keep them in one spot, but that we still try and challenge each student, but just at their just right level.
That's great. Yeah, I love that you do that. Um, my next question is, how do you incorporate learning theories into your teaching practices? And can you provide an example of how a specific theory has informed your instruction?
Absolutely. There's a lot of learning theories that I think are very important, one of which is constructivism, which is building upon prior knowledge and helping students to gain their own understanding through hands-on experiences. And I think it is very important in the kindergarten class that we are learning right now at UVU. We take so much time at the beginning of our class and just play with different hands-on things like sand or blocks or Play-Doh and things like that. And even at 22 years old, I can still learn through hands-on experiences. And I think it's important that students gain that understanding, and it helps with their memory as well. And then with building on prior knowledge, it's important to know what the students' interests are, what they understand previously, so that they can continue to build on that, and we're able to kind of play off of their own interests and help them to stay engaged in the content as well. Another thing that I feel like is very important is Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. I think it's very important for kids to be able to learn at a level that is just right for them. As I previously mentioned, like a just right reading level, that something that's not too easy for them where they can get bored, but is challenging enough for them and isn't too hard to where they just kind of give up. I think those two things are very important in teaching.
Thank you. That's a great understanding of the children's individual needs.
I love how you mentioned that, like looking at students' individual needs and their levels, not just letting it stay at just like one spot, but also pushing them to where they can like improve or just like reach to more further goals, not just letting it stay at one spot. So I love how you keep mentioning that.
Thank you.
One last question. How do you stay current with educational trends and professional development?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that I'm currently doing and will continue to do throughout my teaching career. I think it's very important to attend workshops and conferences. There was a conference that we had just a little bit ago, a reading conference, where we gained a lot of information about Scarborough's robe and all of those kinds of things that apply to helping children learn how to read. I think that's very important. I follow a lot of educational blogs and podcasts as well that help me stay current on things that are working for students, and things that aren't, things that we need to kind of get away from, such as taking away recess time. It's important for students to be able to get up and move and things like that, and those are some of the things that I've learned while I've been going to these workshops and listening to these podcasts and things like that. I think it's very important to also make sure I'm up to date on my research, so that I can know the technology tools and best practices and teaching strategies that will best help my students. And it's something that I want to definitely pay a lot of attention to while I'm teaching and while I'm preparing to teach, so that I can do what's best for my students and for my classroom.
Okay, thank you so much for your time and for your responses. They were all great, and some constructive feedback. What were you thinking?
I think her responses are all really good, and I can tell that she has a lot of experience and she observed like a lot through her own experience in her family or throughout different classroom environment. So like in general, I can tell that she is pretty much prepared to be teaching in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. I love how you said for your professional development that you said how you've already attended a workshop or like a conference. That's really great to see that you've already been making those steps to improve your knowledge. And I love how you mentioned best practices and strategies, because those change all the time and we have to be aware of those. And I love how you said that you include for meeting diverse needs, and I bet like through your work in the special education classroom that you learn a lot through that. And yeah, it's just like making sure that you keep on along with that professional development, like using professional development to learn even more processes and ways to modify content in those specific ways to adapt to the needs of each student.
For sure.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.